Ram, can you hear
Hey,
me?
hey Sean. Yes, I
Hey,
can.
you can hear me. Sweet. Hold on, let me get my controls right. Testing,
Am
testing.
okay?
Yes. Hold on, let me get this full screen together.
Okay, great.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Hold on. Give me one more test speak.
Yes, can you hear me, Sean?
I can hear you well.
Oh, great,
Ram,
great.
thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.
Very,
It all
very
worked out.
dude, it all worked out. Very happy to be with you and thank you for taking this time in your busy schedule.
No, I mean, thank you so much for kind of like having me on your podcast. I think I'm a huge fan of AVG, and I was kind of like very surprised that he actually mentioned me in his podcast, which kind of like introduced you to each other. I mean, to me and now with each other.
100%. Alan Von Geisen is absolutely the man. And when he
Yeah.
mentioned you, I was like, man, that is super interesting. And then I looked you up, and you're super interesting. And I was like, I gotta have him on the Speaking from Water podcast. So, with all that said, let me read you a quick intro for the audience so they kind of understand who you are. Okay, and let me
Yeah.
make sure I pronounce your name correctly in full volume. Rahman Rahamanan Paranjape. Run that
No.
run that. Sorry. I'm a dumb American, and I don't
Yeah.
my Indian is not the best. So give it to me.
No, no worries. I think it's perfectly all right. It's really hard to get my name right the very first time. So let me just, you know, say that one more time from my end. My name is Ram Mohan Paranjape.
Ron Mohan Pen. All right, give me the last part again. We're gonna cut all this out. I just want to get this straight.
Yeah. Okay. It's Paranjape. Paran Paran Jape.
Par,
It's like the
Paran
surname.
Japate. Paran
Yeah.
Japate. Paran
Yes.
Japate.
Yes. You got it. Yeah.
Paran Japate. Okay, excellent, excellent.
But normally I go with the shortest thing, which is Ram. People just
Ram.
call me Ram, and that just works. Yeah.
Okay, all right, excellent, excellent. Well,
Great.
Ram, thank you very, very much again for coming on, and let me do a quick little read real quick. Raham Paranjape,
Yeah.
yes,
Got it.
is
Yeah.
this yes, and just full disclosure, my last name is Ruttkay, and people all over the place say Rutkey, so I'm very
You know exactly
cognizant.
exactly how it goes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
my lineage is Hungarian, and no one
Okay.
in America knows Hungarian, so uh, I
Got it.
I sympathize, my brother. Okay, so Ram is a self-taught photographer, surfer, and adventure traveler. His journey began in his early teens after dropping out of college, with travel, adventure, and surfing being his muse. Inspired by offbeat landscapes, oceans, and extreme adventures, Ram has traveled extensively and documented some amazing expeditions and adventures across India's subcontinent. And I'd also like to add, you are India's only professional surf photographer. And out of a
That's
billion
correct.
people, dude, out of a billion people, I'm so stoked to have you on the show. And it is just incredible to have you here. So, with all that said, thank you again.
Thanks.
And
Thanks, Sean. Really looking forward to this one.
dude, thank you for taking the time. It's about Saturday afternoon, your time, 6 p.m. It's
Yeah.
Saturday morning, my time. And tell me what's going on in India right now. I hear a lot about the new COVID lockdown. You guys thought you
Yeah.
passed out of the wave, but now the wave's hitting you harder than it ever hit us in our worst time. So from a country that got hit hard, we're praying for you and your people. And let us know how you are doing right now.
I'm perfectly, in the right place, I would say personally, because I live in the countryside. Whether when I'm close to the coast as well, we kind of like live a little far from the city and from the crowd. So that's okay when I'm at the coast. And now I'm currently in a bit inland. And again, this is like more like a very farm community sort of a thing, so we're a little out from any of the crazy things which are going on in the big cities normally. So that way I'm really safe and sound, and which I'm very thankful for. But yes, we are just going through that second wave as of now in India, and it's it seems like it's worse than what we had last year, the first wave. So this seems to be. I mean, they are saying this is the mutant, uh, virus, which is a bit hard to detect. It's much more contagious, and it's kind of like really creating a lot of havoc, you could say, in the thing. And yeah, the cases are going up. We are not under complete lockdown, but I think there's a lot of restrictions around, like how we travel and how we go about things. Complete A lot of restrictions in place, and now since it's a weekend, the weekends are complete lockdowns. So you're not really going out. You can't really go out during the weekends as of now, and it's all just kind of like wait and watch, do what we can do as in precautionary. So those we're just hoping that we get through this second wave without much damage. Yeah.
Well, I hope you can use this time to kind of hunker down and get creative with all the material that you've gotten over the years. And that's kind of how I treated my lockdown, was just an internal mental creativity time. So I bet you're going to come up with some cool stuff in this downtime.
Absolutely. I think I'm kind of like looking forward to, especially if I can get to the coast in the next couple of weeks. If there's some good surf and some good surfing photos, if I can shoot something great, uh, then that would be great. It'll be a good phase this year.
So tell me about your kind of local beach. Where you're in the countryside now. I'm sure you have a connection to the countryside. It sounds like the countryside is more of a place where there's not as many people as you just described, but the beach, it sounds like, is where the population is. Is that true?
Yeah, I mean, any coastal part of India has quite a considerable amount of population, you could say. But then there are also towns or small villages along the coastline, which are not too heavily crowded, unexplored, really kind of like, out of reach or unknown sort of parts of the coastal thing. So there's plenty of those in India. And I live by this particular beach, which is about 20 miles from the city, kind of like out of the city, and it's really amazing. And that's where we have our surf club as well. We have I think that's the first surf club in the country, and that's where I grew up. I was introduced to the ocean and surfing and photography, kind of like all happened from that little town, where we live, where we have a base set up. And also it's kind of like we have a bit of private beach access. It's like a peninsula. It doesn't have a road access. You have to kind of like get to that particular beach by crossing the backwaters. And that's my setup. And that's really, I mean, even if there's a lockdown or whatever is happening, we can go to the beaches, we can go surfing. I can take my camera, and that's like the best thing I could ask for during these times. That's the setup.
Excellent. So what is the beach called for those out there who might want to look it up on Google Earth?
Okay, so it is, people can look up Mulki, that's the town, and particularly if they can look up Manta Surf Club, you will find us on the map, and then you will find a peninsula, like separated by backwaters, and we call it Mantra Beach because it's kind of like uh, we have named the beach after the club, after the surf club, but it's not an official name. It's kind of like that beautiful stretch of uh, beach which sticks out. It doesn't have public access, and that's where we go surfing. People can find it. Yeah, if they look up Manta Surf Club Mulki, you'll find that in the Google, and then you'll find a peninsula, with the beach. That's our base.
I'll put a link in the comment section for sure. Now
Absolutely.
tell us what it is that the beach setup is like. Is it a beach break, a point break? What kind of swell do you get throughout the year? How big does it get? What are these variables?
Yeah. So it's mostly all beach breaks along that, along our coastline where I am. It's all mostly beach breaks, but we do have, like especially our beach has a big river mouth. So the river mouth kind of like produces a lot of beach breaks and different breaks at point. We get a lot of A-frames at times if the sandbar is nicely settled, and if it's all good, and if you have a decent swell. I think now this week we are getting some really good decent swell, about 3 to 4 feet, 5 feet, because this is a pre-monsoon season, and this is when our surf season really kicks in, and it goes for about next 3 to 4 months. It's really good. We start getting some bigger swell during the pre-monsoon and monsoon, and the kind of like all the beach breaks really activate if the sandbars are nicely set. And it's a great time of the year for us to go surfing. But there are also other breaks along, depending on the condition. We can move around 10 miles, 15 miles, 20 miles from our home break, and you get different setups along the way. But it's almost a beach break, so yeah.
Beautiful. And what's the coastline like? Do you have lots of tall buildings? Is it interspersed with little cities in the background, countryside? Give me an aesthetic visual.
Yes, it's mostly it's very tropical. It's very tropical. It's just a lot of palm trees, green palm, coconut trees along the entire coast. A lot of backwater rivers coming into the, joining the sea, and a lot of nice coastal towns, and no major city where we live in our state. It's not very commercial, not very touristy, except a few places. So it's very quaint and very laid back where we are. But if you go up north, about 6 hours drive, then you're gonna hit Goa, and Goa is really famous for its beaches and a lot of tourists. It's kind of like yeah, very 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 busy. The beaches in Goa, that's about 6 hours drive. And if you go down south, then it's Kerala, which is again very well known for its long coastline and beaches and everything. But where we are is not too touristy, not much happening along the coast. But it's a great place for going surfing though. Yeah.
So if I was to travel to you, what international airport would I want to fly into?
You can actually fly right into our town, which is Mangalore Airport. It's about just 40 minutes drive from our surf club, Mangalore Surf Club. It's kind of like connected through the Middle East, countries. If you kind of like stop by in Dubai or Abu Dhabi, you could, take the flight and come into Mangalore. If not, then I think the nearest other city would be Bangalore. That's like the capital of the state. You can fly into Bangalore International Airport, which is widely connected to all most of the international connections, and then it's about an hour flight again to our place.
Sounds sick. When I'm out of COVID here and you're out of COVID, I want to make a trip for sure.
That would be amazing.
Yeah, so amazing. Before we get into the questions I prepared, you've just gotten back from a trip traveling around India. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, I was actually traveling within my state, and I was doing this collaboration with Royal Enfield Bikes, it's the oldest motorcycling company in the world. The oldest manufacturers of motorcycles. It's a British uh, brand, but it's been bought by an Indian company for many years. One of the coolest, iconic motorcycle makers. So I was kind of like riding their new bike, and I was kind of like just creating a lot of content around, just riding the bike along the coastline. I was kind of like exploring the coast on their bike, and was getting some really cool shots and some videos and stuff like that. And I just, kind of when you contacted me, I was kind of like was getting ready for that, which I got done, and just
Amazing.
was able to finish that in time.
Did you get some swell along the way?
Yeah, we got a couple of days. There was some really good swell, So I was able to kind of like plug in the surfing bit as well along with the shoot. So that was cool. Yeah.
Sick. Awesome. Well, let's get into it here. I want to know what made you you? Who where did you come from? Who are your parents? Tell me about the birth of Ram and how he became a lover of the water and the sea.
Okay, that's very interesting. Very very interesting question. So for me, I was not born anywhere close to the ocean. I come from a big inland, city. Actually, born in a city called Bangalore, which is like the IT hub you could say, from India. So I was kind of like doing my uh, high school and education, and I had a couple of my friends, my childhood friends, who were the first surfers in the country. They were introduced to surfing, and we had a common teacher as well. So our teacher was kind of like famously known as the Surfing Swami. He was from Florida, Jacksonville Beach. He was kind of like our spiritual guru as well. He was our teacher. But back in his early days, he used to be a surfer. So he surfed at Jacksonville Beach in Florida as a teenager before he kind of like, uh, you know, uh, uh, he met an Indian guru. He became a seeker of Eastern philosophy, and he got very interested with the yoga and practice of spirituality, and he was introduced to India. So he kind of like, I think he came and settled down in India since the 1970s. So my parents were his followers, and as kids we were also introduced through the to the whole uh, you know to the philosophy and to the spiritual practice. So, and as kids, he taught us. He was the one who kind of like really encouraged us to uh, to be in the ocean. He taught us how to swim. He got us our surfboards. He pushed us into our first waves. That was like kind of like the introduction to surfing for most of us. Uh, you know, Kind of like we were a group of few students, and he kind of like was kind of like the godfather of the surfing scene in India. And through his under his guidance, we started he started the very first surf club in the country, and from there onwards it just went from one thing to another, and it's just a whole big revolution, you could say, in India now.
So let me pause there. Uh, uh, this is an Indian who was living in Florida, or was he an American Caucasian?
No, he was an American. He was an American
Okay,
from.
so he's a surfer. He travels to India with his surfing knowledge. He becomes essentially, it sounds like, a surfing guru. Is this true?
Yeah. No, yeah. So he was a guru even before that. I mean, he kind of like he left surfing once he was introduced to India, and he became a monk. He becomes a monk in the 70s, and he kind of like pretty much settles down in India, starts an ashram. He becomes a guru, but not in a big way. He was very small. He was very, uh, you know, uh, that way he was very small. But thing is, yeah, he had that surfing background, but he didn't surf. I mean, that was not his main thing. At that after he chose a different path for himself, surfing was kind of like at the back of his thing. And he didn't take up surfing. He didn't surf for the next 30, 35 years until I think at the age of 50 or 55, when he kind of like he had a bit of arthritis, and he had to, he was advised to take up some exercise, do something. He kind of got back into ocean. He got back into, surfing again. And that's when he introduced us to surfing. And it was kind of like all very accidental, very, uh, you know, coincidental thing which happened. And, from there on, it picked up big time.
So he dropped the seed. He gave you guys
Yes.
the water
Yeah.
knowledge. And how old are you at this time?
At that point, I was about 15, 16 years old. Yeah.
All
I
right,
was 16.
beautiful. So how does college work in India? So you said in the bio section that you left your formal education to
Yes.
pursue this passion, this dream. Is this around the
Yeah.
same age?
Yes, it was pretty much around the same age. So I think I just finished my high school, and I was kind of like doing my pre-university thing for a couple of years, and that's the time at the age of 16 I left that, and I joined this whole community, which was really doing wonderful things. They were doing wonderful things, and surfing was one of the key things which was happening, and I fell in love with surfing, and then also the photography also happened at the same time. For me, it was the same time when I was introduced to both surfing and photography, and that also kind of like made me to really start to working towards shooting a lot of surf and ocean. Yeah.
So now, what year is this? Just so I can put technology in the space of where we are.
Yeah, so this was in 2005 and 6.
So you're
Late
working.
2005 and early 2006. Yeah.
You're working with digital cameras.
Yeah, that was just the transition time when, especially in India, people were moving from the old film cameras to the digital cameras. And I think, if I'm not wrong, I think my first camera was a 3 megapixel Nikon P300 or something. It was called. It was like a point and shoot. It's a small camera. Digital was getting you 3 megapixel, 3.3 megapixel photo, and that's when I kind of like I picked up that and started. Uh, Taking a lot of photos around where we were, which was really, picturesque place. Kind of like enhanced myself, my photography skills for the next 2-3 years until I had my first DSLR in 2007, which was a Canon 20D. It's a great camera, to start with, to take up photography from a very serious perspective.
So give us a little bit more of this historical lineage. You get your first camera, then you get your second camera. And then is it at this point you start saying, hey, this is what I'm going to do with my life. I see the vision for the future with this. I have this skill of documentation now, and there's this burgeoning surf community that's popping up. Explain to us what's going on in your mind and how your environment kind of dictated your course of life.
Okay. So, I mean, obviously, starting from 2005 to 2007, I wasn't like particularly very, I didn't have a plan. I was shooting anything and everything pretty much. I had not decided that I'm going to be a surf photographer. This is what I'm going to be shooting. I think for the first couple of years, it was just learning everything about photography, composition, lighting, the techniques, and everything with a tiny camera. I think in 2007, we all from the surf club, the very core group, we had our first surf trip. We went to this very far remote islands called Andaman Islands, and that is when I was also given the camera. A 20D camera was, I get to shoot with that particular camera, and that particular surf trip was the turning point of my life. You could say, that whole trip, I was shooting only surf. I was just documenting the whole adventure part. How we traveled, how we camped at this jungle for about 10 days. We were going surfing every single day, and I was documenting this whole thing. And after the trip, when I got back, I felt like, oh wow, this is something I really enjoyed doing. Because until that particular point, I was not decided about anything about photography. I was just doing it. I was shooting anything and everything until then. But after that trip, I felt like, oh, this is something which I really enjoy. And I also felt like, I've always been that person who's done something out of the box. I didn't want to just end up, because in India, wedding, fashion, travel these are the big genres of photography. That's where people go and do, because that's where you make money. And that's what gets you a lot of assignments and things. But for me, I wasn't really looking for that, because I just wanted to be something of my own, do something very different from other photographers who were doing in the country back then. So I started surf photography as my specialization, surfing and ocean, from that point of time, which is from 2007 onwards.
What a renegade. So epic. So that is an amazing story. And just to fast forward, now you're super successful in the game. You've been in magazines globally with your work, and it's been a tremendous success story. It sounds like. So just congratulations on that.
Thank you.
And I would just like to hit home for all the kids out there. It pays to take an ulterior path into the jungle with a machete. You don't have to go down the path that all others have gone down. Would you say?
Absolutely. That's something, I kind of like realized very early that, if you need, either you have two, I look at it in two ways. If you want to go on the same path which many have traveled, then you got to like do so much better than what they've done already. You got to like really stand out from what's already been created. And that way, you could go in paths where people have already gone, or you got to like stand out and make your own path, make your own, journey, where you are pioneering the whole thing. And it's very hard. It's very hard to do something for the first time, do something on your own, but it ultimately pays off. So yeah.
And it pays off, and it sounds like just hundredfold dividends, because it is your own path, but it is also, remember, as you just said, incredibly difficult. And you have to but anything in life worth doing is incredibly difficult, right?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, if I can recall, I think my learning curve was very, very long, because I didn't have anyone to kind of like look up to at my local beach, where I came from. I could just go to someone and say, "Hey, man, this is what I need to understand. What is the kind of gear I need to use? What should I be doing, or what should I not be doing?" These were the things which were not easily available to me, growing up, especially at the age of 17, 18. I really didn't understand a lot about surf photography, you could say. So it was definitely a very slow learning curve. And at that time, I mean, thanks to the internet, I used to follow a lot of amazing surf photographers, and my only learning was happening through internet. I was just learning so much about about the equipment, about how do you shoot surf, how do you work with a surfer. And these are some of the things I was just learning through internet, and it took some time for sure. And I could still say today, I'm still learning a lot about the whole process. The learning continues. But yeah, it didn't come on a plate. It didn't come ready. Oh, here it is, and this is what you got to be doing. Yeah.
Totally. So I want to transition now into the surf culture of India, and kind of just for listeners' sake, you came into my world, my orbit, through my interview with Alan van Gijsen, who is a world-renowned surf photographer. We spoke in episode 3, I believe it was, or yes, 3. And he mentioned you in the surf community in India, and that struck me as my ignorant American self. I didn't know much about Indian surf culture, what it's like, and that really got me percolating. So can you break it down for us over here in the United States as to what surfing in India is today in 2001? We kind of reviewed a second ago that it might have been brought by your guru from Jacksonville, Florida. So kind of fill in these gaps, enlighten me to surfing in India today.
Yeah. See, now surfing in India is really getting off the thing, it's getting off the charts. I mean, it's really becoming popular, especially in the southern India, where the oceans meet, the southern part of the country. People do know about surfing in the cities. It's become quite aspirational for young people, the younger generation. They want to try surfing, and so it's getting there. It's becoming very popular. But I think the history is very, the surfing in India has about 20 years of history, you could say. It only started in the early 2000s, when some of my, peers from that time who got into surfing, led by our guru, and then, some other community were inspired by what we were doing, and they started a small surf community. And like that, people started getting inspired by the surfing in small pockets along the coast. And that was like the beginning of the surfing scene about 20 years. So it's all about 20 years, you could say. And in that 20 years, I think the last 10 years have been very rapid, growth in the surfing scene. And again, I think we are entering into the next phase after the pandemic, where people are really getting into surfing now. People really, because that's just because people are working from home mostly. They're not able to travel outside because of the international restrictions, so they're traveling within the country. So we seem like surfing is going to go to the next level, where I think there's going to be even more popularity coming to the sport. Yeah.
So there's a lot there I want to unpack, but let's start with the core of surfing culture. It goes back to Hawaii. I've traveled a bit around the world, and anywhere I go to a beach community, there's certain elements that are always there. The people are more laid back. They understand nature better, it almost seems like. And by that I mean sunrise, sunset, tides. So you have a populace that has been around the water, it sounds like, for thousands of years. Okay, so they understand that part of it. But then you have this kind of foreign alien thing that's come in the last 20 years in surfing, and it's now like, whoa. So with that said, the conditions there are right for the surfing to come up, but it seems like there might be a gap with equipment, stuff like that, the things the industry would need to bring in. So with that said, I would like to know, are there surfboard shapers in India shaping? If so, who are they? Can you shout them out? And if not, what is being done to bring surfboards, the thing, into India?
Okay. See, right now in the India, I mean, obviously, as you said, the industry was just started taking shape in the last 10 to 12 years, like getting the surfboards into the country and I personally have a small company which brings, a few brands like Firewire, NSP, and Hidden Shapes. These are some of the surfboards we distribute in India. So we have a couple of companies, small companies, which we run. One is we do a lot of apparel, try to make them in India. A lot of surf apparel and accessories like leashes and fins and all those things. And then we have another setup which is all about dealing with surfboards and stand-up paddle boards and all that. And there's one shaper in India, but they're more like experts. They're European experts who've been living in India in a place called Pondicherry, and they've been making boards. They shape boards for the community here. It's called I think Indie Shaping Boards, Indie Surf Boards, and they've been the ones who've been doing it for quite some time. And yeah, they do some great boards.
Beautiful. And where do you see surfing in India going from here? Do you see the big companies bringing us, like a Rip Curl surf shop, larger corporations coming in, or do you see this kind of homegrown thing growing and the locals kind of keeping it to themselves? What are the dynamics? Do you want to see large corporations coming in and helping out? Like, what is it as the leader of surfing in India? What is it that you want in the future?
Yes. See, about few years ago, we had Quicksilver and Rip Curl coming into India. I think with Quicksilver, I think set up few shops in some of the big cities in India. It didn't do well because their marketing thing was really not. Yeah. So that when they got Quicksilver into the country, which was backed by a very large Indian corporation, they really didn't have a clue about what surfing is all about. Their marketing people, the PR, they didn't have a clue about surfing or the culture behind surfing. They didn't work with any of the surfers or the surf community really, and the stores really didn't do much. They didn't do much sales. And I think after a few years, they had to shut shops, and they shut all their stores in about 3 cities. I think they had their stores in about 3 major cities in India, and they had to shut shop. And we actually played a role, where we helped a friend to bring Rip Curl to the country because we had some connection with Rip Curl because we had done some of their search trips in India. So we had some connections, and we helped a friend to bring Rip Curl. And again, it was too pricey. And what we realized was all these companies were pricing their products like how they normally price in US or in Europe and Australia. And for the Indian market, it didn't really make any sense to be selling the surf accessories or the goods for such a high price. And thing was, these goods were obviously made in Asia, went back to these countries and came back again from there, and it didn't really make any sense. And that kind of made us realize that we need a homegrown brand. And because India is a huge textile, it's a big hub. So we can actually manufacture a number of things. We can create apparel, we can create a number of products just right here within the country. And for now, at the moment, I think it's all we're going to see mostly homegrown brands, who are doing in a small scale and all that. Perhaps, probably in the future, when the market is big and huge, some of these brands may come back again in the future if they get their strategy right. they can have some good presence probably in the future.
Yeah, it sounds like they completely blew it.
Yeah, it was completely a disaster for them. Yeah.
Well, you guys you got it dialed in, and it's the dumb Americans coming in again and not understanding the local culture, but culture's king, right?
Yeah, the culture is something very important, and I think it wasn't like yeah, it just takes time. You need to have patience. You need to like really work. It's not India is a very tough market. It's not one country with one culture. It's all so many different cultures within the country. Every 100 kilometer, every 50 miles, the everything changes. The culturally, geographically, the cuisine, everything just changes. So it's a very difficult market for any of the large corporations to just come in and set up something.
Yeah, that's a great lead kind of to my next question. So much of India, from what I've read, is a class system. You have different socioeconomic levels, and so much to what we just described. The brands probably didn't understand that most of India is doesn't have a lot of money to spend on these goods like Americans. And one thing I've kind of noticed as I travel, the activity of surfing is a very luxurious thing. You have to have free time. You have to be able to drop all you're doing to catch the swell at the right time. So it's a luxurious activity. As far as what I've seen in America, people with money are the ones who are going surfing and buying surfing goods. How does it stack up in India? Are many different classes, so to speak, of individuals surfing, or is it just one certain class? And what do you have to say there?
Yes. So it's a very interesting question once again, and I could easily break it down to about 2 to 3 different uh, parts. So that is, in India, the whole surfing kind of like started with the fishermen community getting into surfing. Not everywhere, but at most of the majority of the places, it's the fishing community, which because they know the ocean very well, and they spend so much time going to the ocean every single day, for fishing and all these things. They were the first they were some of the very first communities who got into surfing, who really apart from us, because we didn't come from a fishing background. uh, we were the exception, but in the early years it was the fishing community who got into surfing, who set up their base. They set up small surf schools and clubs and communities across India. But from there onwards, a lot of people from the elite class, whether people working regular jobs, from the banking, from industrial, thing, a lot of young students, everyone's getting into surfing now. So now there's very different socioeconomic backgrounds, whether it's from the fishing, whether it's from the students who live in the cities, or elite people who come and take lessons. Because right now in India, the biggest surf industry, or the booming surfing industry is all the surf schools. Everyone's busy. Everyone's getting a ton of people from all classes of society who are coming and taking lessons, or who are getting introduced to surfing. And I think there is a whole rise in educated, well-paid job people. People in very good corporate jobs, or people who run their own small businesses. They're all getting into surfing, or they've got uh, that you know that vibe now, which is all about being in the ocean and riding waves. It's really caught on. They got the bug now. So now today we are seeing everyone kind of like, especially in the water, and that's the most beautiful part. Like everyone from each background, or no matter where they come from, they're all blending in together in the ocean, and that's what surfing has really done in India, which is fantastic.
That sounds incredible, just absolutely incredible. And it seems not only from a cultural standpoint, bringing people together of all backgrounds, it also seems like going forward into the future that the
Yeah.
surfing culture is going to be well primed to have new children grow up to be great surfers someday and do great things. So that's really incredible. Ram, tell me what your premium wave is in India. Where is it on the subcontinent that if you had your little helicopter that you get up in and get to, well,
Yeah.
what's that dream wave?
Okay, so I think when it comes to like some of the world-class breaks, what we are talking about is about perfect 6 foot 5, 6 foot waves, barreling. So these waves come in Lakshadweep Islands on the west coast. It's much closer to Maldives. In their set of islands, it's kind of like an extension of Maldives, you could say, but it's part of India, and it's heavily restricted, and you can only kind of like go on a certain time in a certain way. You could only access those islands, which makes it even more special. And that's where I met AVG, because we organized a trip. It was our secret spot which we discovered. So about 10 years ago, when we did that trip with AVG, we took him there along with a few other pro surfers back then. And so those are very premium, world-class surf breaks. And then there's a whole other bunch of islands on the most eastern side of the subcontinent. It's called Andaman Islands. It's Andaman Islands, much closer to Indonesia actually, and it gets that big swell from Sumatra, from the Sumatran Islands coming up. And those Andaman Islands, Andaman and Nicobar Islands, have a whole lot of setup. There's so many different islands. Some have not been explored. We don't know what's in there. It's very hard to access them, go to certain places and certain islands. But there's certain places you can access, and they get some amazing waves. So those two, island groups are the best uh, if you take the entire subcontinent. Now, if we come to the mainland, forget the islands. If you come to the mainland, where it's easily accessible and all, there is about half a dozen surf breaks, which can get really good. The one on the east coast called Mahabalipuram. It's an ancient temple town, Mahabs, and that particular stretch, Mahabs and Kolong Point. They're all point breaks, neatly sitting, and they get about 3 to 4 months of amazing surf throughout the year. And on the west coast, from where
I'm sorry to interrupt. Yeah. What months are those?
Those are on the east coast. It's about starting May, right now. May to September is the prime season on the east coast. And on the west coast, again, April and May is amazing where we are, Mangalore and southern Kerala. There's some really great setups there as well. And again, the best months are from April to about October, November.
Epic information. Thank you very much for enlightening us to that. I'm sure lots out there are going to be like figuring out when their next trip is going to be.
I really want to share like more information with you. Like I'll probably send you some links to all these different surf spots, and the whole culture, where I actually written quite a few articles about like in-depth surfing culture and surf spots and everything about India. I'm sure.
Dude, that'd be epic.
Yeah.
So just for those out there listening, Ram's gonna come onto the Global Surf Gallery website with a few pieces. So maybe we'll get some visuals from these locations there, and as well as links to these articles that he's crafted. So I'm really excited to get you in the gallery here in the coming days. Hopefully when this releases. Let's shift gears a little bit and go into your process. Okay. So you do extensive traveling to all these different surf breaks, raw, rugged beaches. I'm guessing there's not a lot of medical around, as in hospitals, or so you're very self-sufficient. You're on your own. I'm sure safety is your premium objective, and then comes your artistic output. So set us up. What is it that goes through your head, through your mental space, when you enter a new beach, or a beach you've been to many times and swum at before? Kind of break down your protocols.
Yeah, I mean, safety comes first, absolutely. And when we do travel, especially to newer places, obviously I look into conditions. I look around. let the surfers, go, let them, get an idea about how things are and how the surf is going, how the wave conditions are, how the ocean is going about its thing. And then, after getting a feedback from them, then you gain some confidence to enter water, especially in sketchy areas, because the islands can have a lot of marine life, it's all reef breaks, so you kind of assess the location, talk to the surfers, and then you kind of like do your best and adapt to the situation. And also at times, if you know that you're not comfortable doing something, if you think whether the conditions, as a location, it could be even sometimes all these restrictions, at some places, you have a lot of heavily militarized zones are there. You can't even enter certain beach or certain area of a certain island because it has a naval base or it's an Air Force base or something. So you gotta just have to sit out. You can't really do much about those things. um, so yeah, a lot of things come into play for sure, and you just have to go by what you can do the best and assess. And but yeah, safety is important.
And um, kind of break down, do you come into a situation knowing what it is you're going to use as far as your equipment goes? Are you, you know, how do you decide if you need to shoot land? How are you deciding if you need to be in the water? If so, where are you putting yourself? What are the different factors that go into your process?
Yes, I'm always prepared to shoot both land and water. Wherever I go, I'm traveling, with enough equipment and gear, to adapt and to shoot everything. But I also have a lot of idea, like before I go, I do a lot of research. I try to see, how it is set up, what's the best time, what's the best lighting we could get to get the shots. So a number of things, if sometimes it's better to shoot on the land from the land because the wave is breaking in a certain way and the lighting is better that way, whatever. And sometimes it's good to really get into water and get some water shots, uh, because that's the best time of the day. The surfer wants to get a certain kind of shots, a number of things. So yeah, but the thing is to be prepared for both, uh, prepared for the both, and see the conditions, what is best, and adapt to that particular situation. Yeah.
I see you are affiliated with GoPro. How does the GoPro camera incorporate into your spectrum? Is it all encompassing? Do you use it for just certain things? How do you use the tool, the GoPro?
Yeah, so GoPro is something kind of like I use it for mostly for a lot of fun things which I do around surfing. It's nothing editorial work, not much of editorial search. It is kind of like a lot of BTS is shot on GoPros. I use GoPros for my own surfing, just put it on a surfboard or something. That is just for the quick, content creation and just, you know, use the versatility of the camera, which a GoPro is. So that's something I really use GoPro for. Apart from GoPro, I have a Sony camera which I use with the housing. Uh, and it's great for some, if I want to get a particular kind of shot, a lot of editorial work gets done with my other set of cameras. But GoPros, yeah, I mean GoPros are something which I've used for a very long time, because that was something affordable before I bought some of the expensive cameras. So that's something I've been using for a very long time, and it's nowadays you can really get some great content even with smaller GoPros. So yeah, I love shooting with them, and whatever I shot with GoPro was something which they loved. And when they came to India about 5 years ago, when they had a big GoPro was launched in India in a big way, and I kind of got on their ambassadors from India.
Awesome, very cool. With that in mind, when you're shooting and you're out there, I would like to know what gets you going most in your headspace. Is it getting a really cool shot of a surfer on a wave, or is it an empty wave that gets you going? And this is, economics aside, this is more the creative juices. What percolates your brain most?
I think both, and I really love shooting both the surfer, who's completely doing he's surfing, he's in his element, a lot of amazing action shots, and I love shooting that. And I also love shooting just empty, artsy, ocean images, just empty waves or patterns in the water, in the ocean. I started equally enjoying both because I mean, obviously, I started as a surf photographer, and I used to shoot a lot of surfing only, and but I was not for many years. I was not really shooting empty waves as such. I wasn't really shooting just empty waves or ocean images. Not a great deal. It's only in the last few years I felt like like as you said, my creative juices, like, and I really want to creatively shoot. I just want to spend more time in the ocean, whether it is because you only shoot surf when so many things have to come in, right? The surfer has to be there. He has to be a good surfer. It has to be great conditions, some really good swell, and that's when I used to get in and shoot. But a lot of the times when that was not the case, I hardly go to the to the water, and I really wanted to fill in, replace that gap, and that is when I started shooting a lot of empty waves and seascapes and ocean images as well. And now I equally enjoy both. And I've shot some really cool photos in the last few years. Uh, yeah, I mean, it's great, and mostly for creative. There's not much economy. There's not much money to be made with surf photography or with ocean photography. But it's just really uh, kind of like
I missed that last comment. You broke up. Tell me one more time.
I think shooting surfing and ocean images now is just, although there's not much uh, economically, I may not be earning or hardly make any money out of it. It really fulfills my creative quench, you could say. Creatively, it just really fulfills my quench.
I love that. I love that so much. And really that's what it's all about is you and what it's in your heart. And that's the reason you got into the game in the first place. You didn't get into the
Exactly.
game for the money. You got into it because of
No, no.
what it does right here
Yes,
in the
absolutely.
center. Let's perfect transition into my next question. So you are I've read a lover of philosophy.
Yeah,
Philosophy sits high in your spiritual world. Before
yeah.
we get in deeper to that, what does the aesthetic of water, philosophy speaking, what does the aesthetic of water mean to you, and how would you describe it?
Yeah, you could say, just being in the ocean. I mean, this is everyone agrees. All surfers, anyone who loves ocean or being in the water, we all enjoy that. How we could just leave everything behind and not worry about anything while you're in water, while you're surfing or while you're shooting. While you're whatever you're doing in the water. Whatever you love the most. You're pretty much leaving everything behind. You're going with your empty mind, pretty much. You're not taking your whatever joy, happiness, sorrow, nothing to the water. Pretty much you go with an empty, blank head, and you surf. You kind of like, you're only worrying about what's the next wave you're going to be catching, what's the next wave you're going to be riding, how you're going to be riding, how you're going to be taking a really an amazing photo of something. So that's all in your mind mostly, most of the times. Or if you're with your mates, you might be just talking about general things, just laid back. You're not too serious while in the water, unless you're a competitive surfer or whatever. Otherwise, everyone else, which is 99% of the surfers, are ocean people. That's what they're focused on. And in India, especially like from a very philosophical perspective, we see ocean as an extension of the supreme, of the Almighty. It's an extension which needs to be protected, which needs to be nurtured, which we are part of. you know so that's the mindset we have. It is that we are just a very small uh, small element of the larger scheme of things. So that's the mindset we keep, and we work on it as well. It's not something. So that's what we would like to see. We want many of us to see ocean, see the nature around us as something large, which needs to be nurtured and protected because we are part of it as well. So that's the mindset we kind of generally take when we go into water.
Very deep. That speaks to me very, very hard. Can you kind of elaborate more on the working on it part? What particularly are you working on? I can imagine what you mean, but I want to hear from your mouth.
Yeah. So right now, we have a lot of, we have an NGO which works very closely with bringing children, and we want more people to come into water, because in India, that's the biggest thing. What we don't have is that many people, although I think about 500 million people live along the coastline of India. India is such a long coastline, and there is so many people live along the coastline, and with an exception of fishermen community, people don't have that connection with the ocean. People don't have that connection with the water. It's kind of like seen as a very scared thing, entering water or going to a beach. I mean, many people go to the beach because everyone loves beaches for sure, but nobody enters water, and water is seen as something which is very fearful.
Let me pause there.
It's something which is ignored. Yeah.
So let's in contrast that with a country like Australia that most of the population lives on the coast. Australia has an incredibly strong swimming culture. So they have pools on the beach where people learn to swim. They have nippers where everyone's a lifeguard. So India, with a similar setup, doesn't have the swimming culture. Is that what I'm gathering?
Exactly. So people don't know how to swim here. People, I mean, I think majority of them now, yes, in the cities, in the larger cities, people who are quite well off, people who are well to do, they send their kids to pools, they get their kids to learn swimming. But majority, as a culture, we don't have it. Like probably we have 1.3 billion people in India. About you could say about 80 to 90% of them don't know how to swim. We don't have the culture at all. We don't have the beach culture. We don't have the ocean culture. People don't feel nothing. So given that, as a surf community, as someone who's right there next to the beach, our one of the things what we are doing is to bring more kids into the program, get more kids into surfing, get more girls into surfing, and so that's one of the things. And obviously, the thing is, we all have that bigger, huge problem, which is the plastic pollution. The oceans getting filled with plastic, the beaches are polluted. So those are some of the initiatives which we do under the foundation which we got under the surf club. Try to bring in more kids because they are the future, right? They are the ones. If you get them right, I mean, if you set them up right, they're going to be the leading in the future. So we do a lot of those things, where we are introducing them to surfing, because once you're introduced to surfing, once you introduced to the ocean, you're bound to care about it, you're bound to protect it for the future generation. So there's a lot. So we are doing quite a bit of work, not just us. I think almost every surf community in India, they're all doing that. They're all focusing on these kind of things, which is great to see that happening.
That's just epic. And just to kind of box that in, it's about teaching people how to swim, especially the youth, teaching them about the environment, not to pollute the ocean, and then teaching them how to be present at the beach, philosophically speaking, with water, and that is the work. I love it. That's a trifecta of beauty right there.
Absolutely, yeah. I think we all believe, we can all agree that surf you are. I'm just thinking about here. It can be any part of the world where surfing thrives. The whole community thrives about it. Ocean is much cleaner. The beaches are much cleaner. People are just much more happier for sure. As well. Surfing has that thing in it, which can really change. It can do wonders.
Ram, that's so epic. I have two more questions for you here.
Absolutely.
I could speak with you for the entire day, but I know you're a busy man, and again, I'm just grateful that you're coming to us with this incredible insight. Speaking to the youth, we just brought the youth into the conversation. what advice do you have for the youth? What advice do you give to the youth, or those who are young at heart throughout the world, who might want to engage water on an aesthetic level, whether it be just present at the ocean, whether it be one who wants to capture this presence and share it with others? Give us some tips.
I'm not a huge like an amazing expert or huge like accomplished, you could say. I'm just a guy who's been doing it for some time in a place like India. But what I could say from my experience is, don't do it for for the fame or for the money, and these are not the things. This can happen much later on, obviously. But now, I mean, we know a lot of people do certain things now for social media, just for Instagram, or just to get a lot more eyes on you. So that should not be the reason. I think now a lot of people get sucked into a number of things now with it. I'm not just talking about ocean or surfing or whatever, whatever it is. It should not be for others to validate you. That's more important. The second thing is obviously the money. The financial thing. If you're really passionate about something, those things are gonna come at some point for your passion to kind of like fulfill your passion and pursue that passion. That those you should do it in the right frame of mind, for the right interest, and eventually everything pays off. Whether it is financially or whether it is as kind of some kind of validation when you attain a certain fame and success. Those things will definitely come through. Because I was having this similar conversation with some of the best surf photographers like Morgan Matson, who's a very good friend, because we kind of both started at the same time. Very accomplished. I was also had a similar conversation with Chris Boucard when we did a surf trip. These guys, and even AVG, these guys, they didn't start to attain that fame or that success or that recognition. They purely started out because they loved ocean. They were so passionate about pursuing it. Everything else was secondary. And once they kind of like went in with that pure, mindset, the results came out that amazing, and everything else followed. So that would be my advice. Kind of like just pursue something for the right reason, and the rest will come. The rest will eventually fall in place, fall in line.
Dude, that is spot on. So well said. Just gold. I want to bookend this great conversation with a large macro question. According to Ram, what is the meaning of life?
Wow. I think the meaning of life, you could say, I mean, the reason I used with the who is Ram, and the reason was, I think the reason I picked that name, even before I knew Jamie O'Brien, even before I knew his job, I had that.
Hold on, because you broke up a second. Hold on, time out. You broke up a second. You said, who is Ram? That's your Instagram handle. Okay. So that's the part I just missed. Yeah. So continue there. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So I picked that username, and that was many years ago, even before I knew Jamie O'Brien, and I didn't know he had a name, similar thing called Who's Job. And the reason I picked that username was back then, because I myself was kind of like exploring or searching, what life is all about, who we are, why are we doing what we are doing here, who is Sean, or who is Ram, or who is such and such person, what is the purpose of life? And these were some of the questions which I used to ask back then, and even today, I'm on a path where I'm discovering a lot of things about myself, and that's and that's a journey in itself, right? It's not something you ponder about a few days or a few weeks, and this is a question which we all keep asking from time to time, about where we are going, what we want to do, in our lives, and how could we have an impactful life around us? Not just about you; it's just about your friends, family, the community you live around, and what kind of an impact you're going to have on all of them. And these are the questions, and this is what life is all about: is to kind of like really pay attention to what's happening around you, the kind of impact you can have on others. That's very important. And if one thinks deeply about these things, about about all these different aspects, I think that kind of like should answer the question.
Brilliant. So I believe Socrates said, know thyself. And it sounds like Ram is saying, know thyself is the meaning of life. Is that
Yes,
what I'm hearing?
yes, absolutely. So if you know your purpose in life, and if you know what you can do, to impact within your own, friends, family, and community, and that can lead to greater things for surely. Yeah, that can kind of like really bring out the purpose of the life. Then it can. I think a whole lot is revealed when you are aware about these kind of basic things in life. Yeah.
So epic and well said, Ram. I'm just in awe of this conversation we just had. Again, I could continue this on all day. You're an epic individual, and I can't wait to come hopefully visit you someday, God willing, and or should I say God's willing, and let's get together in the flesh someday. And again, thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks, Sean. I think I really enjoyed answering most of the questions. I really loved. I wish I could, kind of like probably one day sit face to face and have a very deep, more insightful, share more insightful experiences and talk about many of these kind of topics, which I really enjoy talking. Because normally we get on a lot of these interviews or podcasts, and people mostly talk about just very they just touch the surface. And I think this particular podcast I really enjoyed because we really dived into some of these very deeper aspects of life and ocean and surfing and all these things. So that was really great. I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much for having me on this podcast.
Well, thank you so much again, and I would love to have you in a round two coming in the future, because as you just said, speaking from water is about those deep things. We want to get deep into the thought process.
Absolutely.
I too am a lover of philosophy, Eastern and Western. Any deep thought is something that percolates me as much as a sunbeam hitting a ocean surface. So I just thank you again.
Awesome. And I really want to share certain things because I think there's been quite a few interesting articles about surfing, but it touches a lot about the philosophy, especially my guru, Surfing Swami. I think he's answered, and he's done a great series of about certain things in life, especially about surfing and water, about nature and all these things, which I really want to share it with you, and you can probably put it under in the description area for any of the viewers to catch on that as well.
So are these writings you've done?
Yes, there's some writings. There's certain articles out there on internet which I'll be sharing with you. Which is great. It would be a great read for you. Yeah.
Yeah, I would love to check that out, and we'll put it in the description below. These links, and then again, I would love to have you on a round two after I digest this material that you put out, and we can get into it again.
Awesome. I'll be really looking forward to that. Yeah.